in this one, we're going to talk about where we traveled to and what it was like to travel around Europe and Morocco in 2020.
Okay, so the beginning of January, we were in Croatia, in Split, getting all our paperwork for Dan's Croatian residency resolved. And once you got your new ID card is when we decided it was time to start exploring again, to leave Croatia.
Yeah. So the way that we're able to travel across Europe, we don't have to deal with the Schengen zone. So there's a Schengen zone rule, and we have a video about that. So for us, Marlene and the kids have citizenship, and I was able to apply for residency, but unfortunately that has to renew. That's only good for 1 year, and I have to renew every year for the first 5 years.
Yeah, because you're a third country national instead of an EU citizen.
Right. Third country national means from a citizen of any country outside of the European Union.
Correct.
So the application is not that big of a problem, and the first 2 years we ran into some obstacles, but I think the biggest issue for us is that we have to start the renewal process 90 days before it expires, which means we have to be here 90 days before it expires. So rather than having a full 12 months to travel, we only have nine months to travel.
Maybe 60 days, because we didn't do it yet, unless we're behind. But October.
Okay, right.
October.
60 days.
So it's
60
coming
days.
up. It's coming up for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers being thrown around with this. Like 90 days is the Schengen thing, 180 days is the car thing.
Yeah.
But our residency renewal, yeah, you're right. It's 60 days. So we have to be here 60 days before, which means my residency was issued in the middle of December, the first year we came, 2018. So I have to be here and start the renewal process in the middle of October every year. So that means we have to be back here October every year. But of course, this year we came back much, much earlier because of the pandemic. But when we left last year, we got our residency renewal processed, and we don't actually get our official cards in the mail until early January after it's accepted. So it takes 2 or 3 weeks, and with Christmas, New Year's in between, it can be delayed a little bit. But anyways, we left Croatia first week of January, and we started going west went into Slovenia and pretty quickly into Italy. And we drove across northern Italy. We visited Venice.
That's where Ava wanted to spend her 13th birthday. That
Right.
was her choice.
Her birthday, second week of January, was in Venice, which is amazing because it's so quiet, so slow, nobody's there, and we had the whole place to ourselves. It was a little cold.
Yeah, and thinking back, like northern Italy had the first corona outbreak, and we were there probably 2 weeks before it got dangerous.
Probably was already there.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't really know. I mean, we never gotten tested, and we did feel like everybody took turns getting headaches and stomach aches and
We're in Morocco, yeah.
fevers and stuff like that. So we don't really know if we actually got it or not back then. None of us had any big symptoms, so I think we were fine.
Could have been anything.
Could have been anything. Still, like, I know people that are getting sick now and all they think about is corona, but back then we didn't know about it. We only knew in January this was still in China and it wasn't in Europe yet that we knew of. But we were fine. We all recovered. We drove across northern Italy and went to the south of France. We're crossing the south of France. We took about 50% toll roads and 50% back roads.
It was really cold, and so we wanted to explore the southern side of France, but it's just too cold. So we kept driving and driving.
Well, Italy was actually cool because remember, Italy, there were a bunch of parking spaces that have electrical plugs. Yeah. So we were able to run our
mostly free.
Yeah,
right?
mostly free. We were able to run our electric heater, even though we have our diesel heater now, which works really great. But in Italy, we were able to plug in and use our electric heater, which is better for us because it saves our fuel, of course. Also saves our battery because even with a diesel heater, it still uses a little bit of electricity to run the fan. And also the little cheap, like $20 electric heater with a thermostat on it just regulates the heat so much better than, because we don't really know where the Webasto like temperature sensor is. It doesn't seem, we haven't exactly dialed it in back then when we were using it, because we got it installed during the summer in Romania before that, and we didn't use it at all until we got to Italy. So Italy was really cool. We went through Italy. We've probably spent like 2 weeks there, but we really don't feel like we've seen Italy enough, so that we have to go back, even though we are counting Italy as a country that we spend time in. There's so much more of it that we haven't seen, so we'll go back, especially into the south when it's okay again. So crossing Italy into France, we
Went to Provence.
went to San Remo, which is really cool spot on the border of Italy and France on the Italy side. We used to camp around the water, remember?
No.
San Remo, there's a soccer field.
Oh.
And right along the water,
yeah.
there's a whole bunch
Italian
of RVs
campers.
parking. Yeah.
Like, oh,
Then
this
we
is where
walked
the
to Lidl.
Italians come to camp.
Right.
We don't see Italians that much around Europe. But
You
they're-
see very, very few Italian campers outside of Italy, but in Italy, they're everywhere. So Italy's big, and there's a lot of coastline. There's a lot of great things to see. So it's not surprising that, they don't have to go outside of Italy for great camping. But from San Remo, we crossed into France, in the south of France, driving towards Nice. And before that, we went to Monaco,
Oh, yeah.
which is really crowded, very expensive. We couldn't find a place to park with the van, so we basically just did a loop, drove through, went down like switchback roads in very posh neighborhoods.
And we forgot to turn off we forgot to put our phones in airplane mode.
Our phones don't roam in Monaco,
Which we...
so we got dinged, I don't know how much, $20-$30 for that, just
for,
half a day drive, or
just for your
half
GPS.
an hour drive.
Yeah, half an hour, just your GPS.
Right, because we turn our regular phones off.
I imagine if the kids were like streaming YouTube.
Oh my God. Woo. Yeah, we would be broke. So we didn't stop or stay in Monaco. I don't even know how easy it would be to stay there, but I feel like we had enough of Monaco.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, we just popped back out and we're back in France again. And then in France, it was really cold too, the south of France. And we had just heard so much about driving through the south of France and roadside rest stops and people eating, going to the bathroom, or, we know to never sleep in these roadside rest stops in France and Spain because we heard so many horror stories about break-ins. So I just remember being really nervous every time we stopped on the side of the highway.
Yeah, and I also remember, like, if we wanted to go to the grocery store or you went to go into, like, some of the Taco
Into the gas
Bells
station.
we saw, one of us would stay in the car. It just felt like we were so paranoid.
But there were no Taco Bells in France.
No,
it was
in Spain.
Yeah.
But it was just one of us stayed in the car.
Yeah, I don't know if we were like overly cautious or if we needed to be, but I'm glad that we did because, we didn't have any problems with break-ins or anything.
Yeah.
But I think it's also more common in the high season when there are a lot of tourists, and this is late January, so there were
low.
Super low, no tourists.
Yeah.
We did have trouble trying to pay tolls on the French highway. Remember, they wouldn't accept our credit card, and somebody had to come on the speaker in this unmanned toll booth and figure out how to get my payment to go through. So, and then we didn't have enough euros.
Sorry for all the cars behind us.
Oh my God, we were stuck there for so long, and we couldn't turn around. We couldn't reverse, but we finally figured it out. But in France, we stayed. We didn't stay too long. I say we probably drove through in like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, we did stop at we did one of those French Passion kind
Oh,
of like
yeah,
harvest
right.
hosts in the
Right.
US, and we met our friends. They're world
Towning.
towning.
It was in Provence, right? In the Provence region.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. We don't officially have the France Passion. If you guys don't know what France Passion is, it's basically the same thing in the U.S. as Harvest Hosts, but France Passion is just for France because there's so many little farms in France that sell, wine, cheese, whatever, like lavender. They have somebody put together a program where you can buy and stay at all these places. So when we go back to explore France, like properly for a long period of time in our van, I think we'll probably do that.
Yeah, I
do
think
France
it'll be
passion.
worth the money if we prefer not to stay at campgrounds if we don't have to. And that's another option where we can have some amenities if we need it and get drunk. Oh no, I'm just kidding.
So that took us all the way to probably the beginning of February before we eventually cross into Spain. And we were concerned that driving from Croatia to Western Europe, meaning we had to deal with the Alps, and also what's the other mountain range that goes over?
Dolomites?
No, Dolomites it's part of the
Italy.
Alps. The Pyrenees. Yeah. Okay, so from France, we drove across the Pyrenees to get to the first place we stayed is the town of Figueres in Spain, which is where Salvador Dali is from.
Oh, that's right.
And we stayed at our first Spanish campground. I think we wanted to have electricity because of how cold it had been.
And you know what was happening? There was that crazy hurricane that ravaged Spain, and so I think we were hiding out there.
Was it a hurricane? There was some kind of storm.
Yeah, it was a big
Gloria.
storm. Yeah,
Gloria. Yeah, there was a big storm called Gloria that was on the coast of Spain, on the Mediterranean coast of Spain. So yeah, we were there. It rained a lot, and it was just a simple campground. I think it was €10 a night. We had a good time there, and we walked around this little town that was there. I went to a little store, tiny grocery store. Probably, it's a small village.
Yeah.
That was cool.
We tried to go to the museum the next day.
That's right, when we were trying to leave.
And we didn't look at the schedule. It was
Yeah.
closed on Mondays.
It was raining,
Wah, wah,
and the
wah.
Dali Museum was closed. And we had to keep moving because our goal was to get to Morocco. Basically, we wanted to make our way towards Barcelona, which we did. We met up with our friends Conan and Callie there. We met Conan and Callie in Baja a couple of years before when they were driving through. They were doing their trip through the Americas. And they have since settled in Barcelona. They're from Argentina. Okay. Both of them are European. Their families are European immigrants to Argentina.
Right.
So I think Conan's family is from Germany. But they live in Barcelona now, and it was great to have somebody who's living there to kind of show us around. So that was really cool. And then from Barcelona, we just went down the coast. We went all the way along the coast down to Valencia, and then we found this cool little abandoned hotel that a lot of people stay near. Like there's this one abandoned hotel, and it just has beaches and parking lots that kind of go all along the beach. And everybody stays there.
I think that was the first time that we felt it was warm enough. Like we found.
Yeah. We didn't exactly go swimming there, I don't think.
Because it was Gloria just messed up that whole
Right.
coast. So it was dead fish and onions all over the beach, remember?
Yeah. Some kind of
And the kids
onion vegetables.
buried all the dead fish and
There's
made
so many dead
gravestones
fish.
for them, and that was like what they did like for days.
Had we showed up there like 3 or 4 days ago, there would have been crazy storm, but then we would have gotten all this free fresh fish.
And onions.
And onions. I don't know what we make. Make a nice fish soup or something?
I guess.
Yeah. So that was Valencia, and then from Valencia we kept going south. And we went past to, there was this one kind of town that we went to. We have no idea what to expect in Spain. And down here along the town of Cartagena through Almeria to Malaga, this is like kind of the more touristy, like more, there's a lot of, I think, UK retirees that end up retiring there. So we didn't think it was going to be as crowded as it ended up being. There were a lot of cars, a lot of retirement homes, a lot of like shopping areas. So there was one stretch that wasn't too bad, but for the most part, we stayed in, we went to Puerto Almeria, which is, the one thing that was really notable about that area is they grow a lot of vegetables. I remember driving towards Almeria, and then from a distance, all you see is just white covering, like tarps, plastic tarps, covering all the land, every single farm. Just it was like a sea of white plastic, which is kind of sad to see.
Like I think from like Google like satellite view, it's like, why is this area all white? Like, did it snow here? Like, no, it's plastic for like greenhouses for growing.
Because they grow so much of the food for all of Europe. So yeah, it was kind of sad to see. But when we got to Puerto Almeria, that was a nice little port town. We were able to pay for a spot at the marina.
Oh, that's right.
Which is nice. We stayed probably like 4 or 5 days there, and then we saw a big tall ship come into the marina, so that was kind of cool. So when we left that, we went towards Malaga, and in Malaga is where we have some other friends that we used to travel with or meet up with in North America, in the United States. So we met up with our friends Kate and Ian in Malaga, who has since settled in Spain. They are originally from the UK, have lived for decades in the US, and now they've moved back and have chosen Spain. So from there, we went down to see the Rock of Gibraltar. So technically, we've been to that part of the UK. And then from Gibraltar, we went to the ferry dock and boarded a ferry for Morocco and in Algeciras. And that was when our North African adventure started. So our plan, we crossed into Morocco.
Valentine's Day.
Okay, so pretty quickly, within about a month, within about 5 to 6 weeks, we were in Morocco after we left Croatia. Our plan was initially to go surfing down there because the surfing is really good. In fact, I had bought a new surfboard in Spain with the intention of using it in Morocco when we got there. But then the plan was, okay, it's still pretty nice inland right now, so let's go inland first, and then we go to the coast, and then from the coast we'll just slowly make our way out.
We were scared it was going to be too hot, like Sahara Desert.
In the desert.
Let's wait for it to warm up there. Like, no, let's go there first.
Yeah, but as you guys know now, we're inching towards the pandemic, the declaration of the pandemic, and then the soon lockdown of Europe. So we did get to see a lot of Morocco. We went through the Middle Atlas, the High Atlas, and then we went to the Sahara Desert. We got to ride camels, had some really beautiful scenery. You can see them on our Molly Mish YouTube channel. We have some videos from there. We drove through, some really crazy roads.
A lot of
crazy roads. And then we ended up at this town called Tafarouk, which is like an oasis town. And that was when things got a little bit crazy with the pandemic. Things are starting to, you start to hear things, and we're starting to socially distance from people. And this is also where we found a box of like 6 abandoned puppies that were days old. And we started taking care of them. And we realized that we didn't have the proper equipment to do it. So that's when we left Tafarouk and went to the coast, finally. We finally got to see the Atlantic coast of Morocco. And we waited for another 6 days at a campground waiting for the animal shelter to make space for these puppies to protect them from they have a parvo outbreak at the time.
And to be in a campground with water, because getting water wild camping in Morocco is where we were was impossible.
It was
in the
impossible.
desert, and we needed to clean these puppies.
Yeah, and we were running out of water
for ourselves,
like
and for the
multiple
puppies.
times a day.
Yeah.
So by the time the shelter was able to take them in, the country had just gone into lockdown the day before the shelter took them.
Yeah.
So the very next day, we drove all the way back up to northern Morocco to the port of Ceuta, which is a little tiny corner of Morocco across from Gibraltar. You can see Gibraltar really well from there. But Europe or Spain had closed its borders to Morocco. So we were stuck there. And we ended up being stuck there for about a week before a ferry was able to be sent from France. And we paid like 5, 6, 7 times more the price to get back to Europe as it did for us to get there at first. So that ends up being like the last few days before we came back to Croatia. So we ended up back in Croatia this year at the beginning of April. So we were only traveling this year around Europe and Morocco for a little less than 4 months.
Yeah, before everything locked down.
Yeah, so we hadn't really planned. Our original plan was to go see more of Spain and then see as much of Portugal as we have time for, and see some of France in the Bay of Biscay and the Normandy
So much
area.
surfing in the future.
All that surfing that we were supposed to do, we didn't do any of it.
Not one day.
And then this summer, even like right now, we're supposed to be in Scotland and maybe making our way back
Yeah.
to be here for my residency renewal in about a month. But instead, we decided coming back to our home base in Croatia was probably the right thing and the safe thing to do, because we can be socially distanced. We don't have to rely on campgrounds or wild camping or anything like that. And we thought this whole time we're in Croatia, we had never planned to be in Croatia for the summer. And Croatia is actually the place to go for the summer for a lot of European tourists.
And that's why we avoid it.
That's why we avoid it.
We don't like crowds.
So we felt like, okay, this might be a really good year to be in Croatia for the summer and kind of have beaches to ourselves. So it turned out that the crowds were still pretty high, and especially the places that we like to go, which is the little family-oriented cove that's in the island of Hvar, where Marlene's family's from, her parents' side's from, her dad's side. It was really crowded. It was as crowded as any year, but it's because I think a lot of people were foregoing visiting big cities and then opting for small villages instead.
Yeah.
So, that didn't quite turn out the way we had imagined, but we still got to explore a good part of Croatia inland, because
Yeah, forced us to go out.
it forced us to go inland where it's much, much less crowded. I think we felt a lot more of the lower tourism numbers inland than people did out on the coast.
Yeah,
People
for
still
sure.
came to the coast. So that took us back. So that now, we've been in Croatia for a little over 5 months now, and now we're approaching my residency renewal. So we're going to be here until January at least, and then we'll see how everything goes and see, where we go from there.
What we can do.
If things work out, if traveling is permitted and it's okay to do, we're probably just going to try to redo our plan for last year.
Yeah.
We're going to decide if we're going to go back into Morocco or not, because we don't want to be
Yeah, we were
stuck there again.
And it was expensive to get out.
And there was a difference between going to a country where you can just drive back versus having to rely on a ferry service that may not be running. So that's it. That's our travel in Europe in 2020. That was probably much longer than we intended, but it's even for the short 4 months, we did a lot.
Yeah, we did. We saw so many cool things.
It's probably actually January. It's only actually 3 months, right? Because we got back at the beginning of April. So yeah, we only did 3
Right
months.
in March.
Yeah.
Yeah. We drove.
So that was our year of traveling, or at least our 3 months of traveling this year across Western Europe and Morocco. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in the next one.